Am I audible, technical team?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. A very good afternoon to all. I, Manish Belande from IT department, Sakik, welcome you all on the first day second session for our AICT ISTE sponsored online refresher program on developing secure IoT application. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Joanne Gomes, who is Dr. Joanne Gomes, who is an HOD of IT department, St. Francis Institute of Technology, Mumbai. She had PhD in electronics and communication from SNDT University, Mumbai in 2015. She is a recognized research advisor in the field of electronics and telecommunication, computer engineering, and information technology. Her research area of interest are wireless network, embedded system and IoT, AI and data analytics, and solar technology. She had published various research papers in reputed national and international journals. She is an expert speaker at various conferences, STDP, webinars, and workshops. She had overall 30 years of experience in the research and education field. I am very sure this session will be the best informative session for all of us. Just before hand over to our speaker, I have few announcements for the participants. All the participants, if you have any query in between the session, please write in the question and answer sections. The frequently questions will be asked at the end of the session. Also, the feedback link will be provided in the chat box as well as in our WhatsApp group at the end of the session. So I would like to request our today's speaker, Dr. Joanne Gomes, to take over the session.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Thank you for your nice introduction.
Yeah, welcome.
Yes. And dear participants, I welcome you all for this session on circuit diagram designing with Arduino simulator. Okay, hope you had a nice lunch and you're fresh now. So I just begin with my session with no more delay. I'll just share my desktop for a minute. Yeah. So I'll just go here 1 minute. Share. So just to start with the definition of IoT. So IoT stands for Internet of Things, right? And if you see, look into the broad definition, as you know, number of people will define it in a number of ways. Okay, so we will, for our session, will define IoT as it's a network of physical objects or things embedded with electronics, software, sensors, and network connectivity. Okay, so all these things, when you embed into this physical object, that object becomes smart. Okay, which enables these objects to collect and exchange the data with external environment. So if we want our object to become smart, okay, so that it is able to do some work to collect the data or to transfer the data or to take some action on the external environment, then we need to embed something in that device. As we have mentioned here, embedding that device with electronics, some kind of software, some kind of input sensors, and some kind of output actuators maybe, and some kind of communication for connectivity for communication. Okay, so let's take one example to understand this definition. So let's say I have a simple lamp at home and the lamp has a switch on it, right? So when we put switch on off, the lamp comes on and off. Now, in this case, I want this lamp to be a smart device. How will I make this device as a smart? Indirectly, one of the smartness could be I am putting the switch on and off this lamp, maybe remotely, or maybe I want to switch on and off this lamp automatically when certain environmental condition changes, right? So now what I must do? So To make a device smart, I must first add some kind of embedded electronics. Okay, so first thing what we need is some kind of CPU, some kind of microcontroller, which can think and take some decisions. Okay, whether to put switch this bulb on or off. So we need embedded software into that microcontroller along with the hardware. And we also need some kind of sensing. For example, I want lamp to be on when it becomes dark, atmosphere or surrounding becomes dark, right? So some light sensor. So when a light effect is very low, then I want to put or I want to switch on the bulb. So my microcontroller will be connected with such kind of light sensor. It will take the input from the sensor and act upon that bulb accordingly, right? So to act upon the bulb, we need to have some kind of output device as an actuator, right? So here in case we can say some kind of relay can be used to put the bulb on and off. So things go on getting added, when we have to make device smart. So smartness is required in case we want to make it as a IoT device or we want to make it as a smart object for IoT. Now, this is what I said now that we want to add a microcontroller. So microcontroller, I'm adding just close to a physical connection to the lamp. But what if I want to control it remotely? Then I need to have some kind of network connectivity. Okay. So the closest in the local network, if I want to switch this lamp on and off, then probably I'll go for RFID type of connection or a near far communication. Okay. NFC connection. And or I can use also Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, and there are many options for connectivity, right? Now, so after connection, after having some kind of connectivity with that microcontroller which is connected to the lamp, I can now send the signals to that microcontroller from my mobile, either by Wi-Fi. Okay, so my microcontroller should be also able to have that connectivity. Okay, it should be able to communicate with my phone. So locally I can control from my mobile my microcontroller and command the microcontroller to switch on or off this lamp. Fine. So now I'm set to have here one device connectivity with another device. So this is my first device which I want to control. Mobile is my second device. So we can say device to device connectivity. Right. So here I may have wireless connection, I may have RFID connection, I may have Zigbee connection and so on. So am I doing IoT in this? Now as IoT definition suggests, it's Internet of Things. So still we have not reached IoT, but IoT was emerged something like this. Okay. So first it was device to device, then machine to machine connectivity. And then slowly when this local scope was increased, I mean, what I'm saying is instead of local remote control, if we want to have a remote control from far away from another network, okay, then I have to extend my microcontroller connectivity to the cloud, okay, or to the internet. So my microcontroller should be able to connect to the cloud. So it will either send the data to my internet or it will receive the data from the internet. In that case, suppose if I'm in the office, then I can have, if my device, this particular lamp which I have made smart, if it is connected to the internet, then now I can connect it. It will have some ID, device ID. I can control that device from mobile, which is in another network, maybe my office network. Now in this case, I'm set to have my IoT smart device, which is now controlled by using internet. Okay. So now this whole picture gives me idea about something called as a network of physical objects. So like this smart lamp, I may have many smart devices around, maybe in just in my house, my smart fridge, my smart microwave, or my smart door lock, my smart camera, or it could be anything. Okay. So all these smart devices now are connected to the internet and I'm able to control them, communicate with them by using my remote mobile or computer from remote location. Right. So this is what exactly IoT means. Okay. I hope I'm clear with the definition. So in IoT, this smart device is also called as a things. Okay. So things in the IoT devices such as heart monitoring implants, biochip transponders that are put on the farm animals, okay, smart automobiles with built-in sensors. All these are examples of things in IoT, and they are IoT devices, you can say, in other words. Okay, so this Internet of Thing actually was coined by Kevin Ashton in 1999, and from there onwards, as on today, millions of devices are already connected to the internet, and people are controlling them, right? And somewhat little different division of IoT is industrial IoT, wherein you don't have this home kind of devices, but it's more concentrated towards your industrial equipment. So that entire equipment, if you have simple power supply at home, then that entire equipment can be monitored from, from somewhere far placed office with the help of IoT concept. Okay, so that is called as the industrial IoT. So I talked about device to device, machine to machine, industrial IoT, or our simple Internet of Things. Okay, day-to-day life, we use Internet of Things nowadays. So I'll skip this slide. Okay, so how IoT works, we just saw. So just some points about it. So for IoT to work, it is not just we need just internet. Okay, so IoT is made up of, or IoT is possible due to several technologies together. It's just not a single technology, but many technologies together. Okay, so we'll see what are these various technologies. So first, we need something called as a sensor to sense the environment, a sensing device. So a sensing technology is a different technology altogether. Then we need to have communication between devices. So we need connectivity for that. We need different cooperation between devices. Okay, as we need to communicate, send data to cloud. So different communication technologies such as your GSM or cellular technology, satellite communication, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or your personal area network, your low power wide area networks, Ethernet, your wired network, which we call it as a LAN. So there are many choices, and all these can help you to facilitate IoT to implement the IoT. So after sensing, connectivity, we need to have different types of softwares for IoT to happen. So suppose you have sense some temperature and send the data to cloud, and you want to process that temperature reading that you have taken. For example, let's say you have taken the temperature reading in degrees and you want to convert it to Fahrenheit and then display to the user in some user interface, right? So who will do this conversion, right? Or any other kind of processing that you want to perform. Nowadays softwares are available, they're called middleware, okay, and it's available on the cloud. Also you might like to display your data in graphical form. You want to do some kind of data visualization after all data collected from your smart IoT devices. You want to plot them. So some kind of analytics you need to do. Then all such kind of softwares are required for information processing. So, okay, so that is another software technology, you can say. It will involve the cloud technology, right? And then after processing, after sensing, communicating, processing, you need to take some action on the environment. So you want to send the signals back to your smart device. Okay, you received something from smart device, you want to send back some signal so that it can take some action. So for that you need some actuation technology. Okay, so commonly used actuation devices are relays, solenoids. Okay, so all these technologies together will make IoT happen, and there could be also an addition, some kind of user interface that end user can use. Let's say a farmer is using his mobile, and he has got some smart farming devices he has embedded into his fields, and he wants to monitor his field continuously, and he's using mobile remotely, right? Then he needs some kind of user interface. He needs to see, okay, what is the soil moisture, what is the temperature in his field now, okay, or what is the humidity in his field. So user interface also will play important role. So we can say this when I said about cloud technology, many clouds, as I have mentioned here, are available, but all are not free. And out of this, somebody might speak in your session, one of the sessions about ThinkSpeak, which is a free cloud. Okay, so I told you sensors could be like temperature sensors, or moisture sensor, or heartbeat sensor, pressure sensor, and there are n number of sensors you probably are aware. I mentioned about actuation, I mentioned about the communication technologies and different softwares that are needed for information processing, and all these softwares like middleware and analytical softwares could be provided by these clouds. Okay, so cloud technology. So that is how IoT will work with the help of different technologies. It's fine. Again, continuing with how IoT works, I would like to say, I already mentioned that there is initially device to device communication. Then we can say within a network we are controlling the device, so device to cloud connectivity. And then there could be a device to gateway connectivity. So when we are connecting device from some another network, then gateway will get involved. So looking at this example in the diagram, let's say there is a fridge and microwave, and fridge want to send some recipe to microwave. So two devices they want to communicate. Now I have made them smart by, let's say, putting some microcontroller board. So this is the first microcontroller board and this is the second microcontroller board. Now when they want to communicate with each other, they need, let's say there has to be a wireless communication, because in the house, if I have many smart devices, I cannot afford to use physical wired connections, right? I would like my house to be clean and neat, right? So for wireless communication, let's say it's a very close connection within, let's say, few meters. So then we can use Zigbee. And so first Zigbee is connected to first microcontroller device, second Zigbee to second microcontroller device. So let's say this first microcontroller makes fridge smart and another microcontroller makes my oven smart. And obviously in the diagram sensors are not shown, sensors or actuators, but we'll assume that they are there. Then I will put software program in the first microcontroller and second microcontroller according to the need, and then they can communicate with each other. So if fridge wants to send some data of recipe to oven, then we can program the first microcontroller accordingly with some software. Okay, so this is called as a device to device communication using some wireless kind of connectivity. And this is also a kind of what IoT can achieve, controlling, sensing, actuating, or device to device communication can also make it possible. So this also comes under the umbrella of IoT, though the internet is not involved. Okay, going further, device to cloud. Let's say we have some device here, microcontroller, which senses the temperature. Okay, and it says it is 67 degrees, and this microcontroller device is connected to the cloud. Then I'm sending the temperature data to cloud and I'm reading it from mobile. Okay, so there is again a wireless connection. Now how do I connect to cloud? I can also connect by this microcontroller can connect to by using GSM also. Okay, so somehow I'm getting internet on my microcontroller, and once I'm on the internet, I'm connecting to some cloud. Maybe I'm storing some data. There will be databases on my cloud available. I'm storing data there, and I can fetch that data by my mobile. Okay, and I can read it on my mobile, or I can, if it is something related to AC switch on off kind of operation based on the temperature sensing, then I can also control that AC from my mobile. So once my device, a smart device, smart IoT device is connected to the cloud, then now internet is involved. But here this kind of IoT, I would say it is in the single network. Okay, both mobile and my smart device are in the same network. Okay, but what if I want to control the device from the different network? Okay, so let's say end user is in some another network, my smart IoT devices is in some network, right? Now if I'm on the same, if my mobile or end user is in the same network, then we saw that it can directly communicate with the device. Okay, it doesn't need any kind of router or gateway. But if my end user is in another network, like this is a home network and if this is an office network, then we need some kind of gateway in between, right? So maybe our institute gateway will help us to connect to our home network. So then that is then your devices, these all smart devices are need to connect to gateway first, okay, and then communicate through the internet to the end user. So you may like to send your device data to even gateways before going to the internet. So nowadays you get these gateways, examples are given here. Let's say for example, LoRa gateway. So LoRaWAN network is a very recent network, a kind of Wi-Fi network. Okay, so it has its own topology for accessing the network, and so they have their own gateways also. So they provide their own kind of Ethernet connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity. So we can use a kind of LoRa network for connectivity, connecting our IoT devices. And then LoRa network will help us to connect to internet. Or your normal Wi-Fi network also, if you connect your Wi-Fi, you have your home, some mobile. Suppose let's say I connect my smart device to my mobile, which is kept at home. So instead of LoRa gateway, I'm using my mobile. So when my smart device is connected to my mobile, now on my mobile, I have GSM connectivity and I'm already connected to the internet. So in such a scenario, my smart device is connected to internet via my mobile. So my mobile is acting here as a gateway. Let's take another example. My smart devices now connected to a computer at home. I have a PC at home. Now when smart device connect to the PC and PC is connected to some kind of, let's say, Wi-Fi, or maybe you're taken an MTNL Wi-Fi or something like that. So now I have connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity on my computer. So now computer will help these IoT smart devices to connect to internet, and then the end user can access it. So in this case, now my computer is my gateway. So okay, so gateway can be any middle device which helps you for your smart devices to connect to another network indirectly. Okay, now all these gateways also would have some kind of computing capability, or some kind of processing, data visualization could be possible with the gateways also. Okay, in case of very complex IoT applications, you can take help of gateway, some middle level computing. Okay, so this is all about IoT, right from device to device communication to device to gateway. And now I hope you got a little bit idea about how the end user controls your IoT smart device through the network. Okay, whether it is the same network or different network. Now your topic of this session, I mean your FDP, it is something about developing secure applications. So security is most important in any kind of application, and that's true with IoT also. So IoT security topic is still developing and there are a lot of loopholes, and that's why probably you see people still hesitating to use smart homes or smart buildings. Okay, so if any hacker hacks the control of your home devices, he can just imagine he's putting your lights on off middle of the night, right, your fans on off middle of the night, or you know anything, any fiddling with smart devices by hacker will give us a will put us in a state of shock, right? So that is how serious it is. Any hacker, if there is no security for your IoT devices, can hack the network and really control your devices or put them on off, whatever possible things they can do. So whenever we talk about security, then security usually in the network is provided at different layers. So quickly we'll go through this slide. So we see that normal TCP/IP layers, physical data link, network transport application. In IoT, these layers are arranged or named differently by different people. Okay, so for example, let's say physical and data link layer commonly is called perception layer in IoT layers, right? Application layers is called application itself. Now sometimes there is no transport layer, network and transport together is called as a network layer. Application, some of the IoT layer designs, they also show many in between layers, between this network and application, such as middleware or analytics layer. So middleware that will have some softwares on the cloud, So they split these layers into many different layers. So for this, our circuit simulation purpose, only one layer is important. That is the first layer, the perception layer. Okay. So is there any security provided at the perception layer? So let's look at this diagram. Okay. As I said, perception layer is very important. And when we deal with the circuit diagrams or any physical components such as sensors, actuators, that is our smart things, or all IoT smart devices, then they come under this, they are developed, or we can say that they are in the network layer, perception layer, which is the very first layer, that is our physical layer. Okay, now as a circuit diagrams do not provide a security which will help for your IoT operation. Okay, because it's an electronic circuit. So circuit level protections, basically short circuit protection, so that any device should not get damaged, or any high voltage surge protection. All such protections you can develop at circuit level. But especially IoT sites security, if you have to say, then we have to think of these technologies which we are going to use at perception layer. As I said, a data link layer and physical layer is combined in this perception layer. Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Bluetooth, all these technologies work at data link layer. Okay, MAC layer, what we say. So because they actually work in the local network. So this Wi-Fi, Zigbee or Bluetooth, they form your local network at this perception layer. So all these technologies, Wi-Fi, Zigbee and Bluetooth, they provide you security. So that physical layer is secured from your all other IoT upper layer operations. So what kind of security these protocols provide you? So it's kind of encryption. So suppose you have a temperature sensor in this perception layer and some output device as a sprinkler, and based on the temperature sensor I want to put this sprinkler on and off. Okay, watering. Okay, or whatever I want to take action. So there could be one input sensor and output device that I'm controlling. Now whatever temperature sensing data I want to send to the upper layer, I will be using, let's say, Wi-Fi, Zigbee or Bluetooth technology, right? And then this my data is encrypted by all these technologies. You must have heard while connecting your personal hotspot there, a WPA security, right? Or in the Bluetooth we are asked for the private key for communication. So all these kinds of security are always provided by some kind of technologies, but as such physical layer circuits don't have any kind of network security. Okay, they may have the circuit level security. Rest of the security is provided by upper layer. For example, after this perception layer you may have network layer. So physical layer security is provided by Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Bluetooth technologies. Then there could be a gateway level, router layer, network security. Okay, at IP level, IP address level. Then there could be application layer security, which we can call it as a cloud security. So when I communicate my temperature sensor data, save it on the cloud with some database, right? And then there could be some kind of middleware which will be calculating something, deciding some action and conveying back to my some IoT smart device. Okay, and controlling the sprinkler maybe. So in this whole process which happens through this IoT, okay, at different layer there is a security provided. So to some extent IoT is secure using the existing security technologies. But then research is still going on if you are connecting to power grids, okay, smart energy meters where there is a lot of scope for hackers, So people are still developing different security techniques, okay, because since it's a kind of distributed network environment. Fine. So that's all about security and the circuit simulations which I'm taking about how it deals with security. So I hope I'm clear to that. Now we will talk about our today's topic. I mean, we'll actually start it. So as I said, perception layer mein I will have the smart IoT devices. And if I want to make IoT device smart, so let's say I'm doing some experimentation, then I need to use some kind of microcontrollers or microcontroller based boards. Okay, and which can have some ports where I can read the sensors, and I can take some actions. I can put on off some relays. So let's see more about it. Okay, so I already spoke about this, sending data to cloud. Fine. So as I said, IoT is not a single technology. Quickly we'll go through this slide. So what are with respect to circuit simulation, what technologies are contributing to IoT? So MEMS, micro electromechanical systems. So they help you to make very tiny components, low power sensors. Okay, a very short size, small size you can say. So you probably must have seen surface mounting devices and surface mounting soldering, right? So that is possible due to this MEMS and also due to actuators. So nanotechnology helps you to make very small relays, you know, PCB mounting relays, which can be used as smart switches. Okay, and for communication, we already discussed about this. There are a variety of technologies. LoRaWAN is being latest, and also we have now many cloud computing technologies recently. So all these technologies make your IoT. Okay. So just a short summary about whatever we saw about a smart thing. So we can say a device is smart if it has some kind of ID of itself. Okay, some kind of number. Just a minute. Huh? Okay. So it should have its ID of its own. It should have some capability to communicate, to interact with other devices in the network. Okay. It should also have, it can possibly have, it's not compulsory, but can possibly have human and machine readable name. It should have some kind of computing capability. It may possess some kind of some means to sense and some means to trigger actions. Okay. And when such things are there with that device, we can call it as a smart device. So the best example is your smart watch, and see the number of services, smart services it provides. Okay, so you can Google it and see like how it will have a smart fitness tracking, or even it can put on and off it can start my vehicle, right? It can give me alarms or many other things it can do. It can even control my other equipments in home. So nowadays smart devices do a lot of jobs, and that is one of the best example as a thing. Okay, smart thing. Some of the other examples like Google Glasses, you can see fitness trackers, or smart hearing aid, some other medical sensors devices. Okay. So coming to now, we want to design a smart IoT device, and then we need to simulate that circuit. So simulators will not help you really to connect to internet as such. Okay. But what they can help you to do is, before you send anything to, before you send data from your smart device to your internet connectivity or to your cloud, they will help you to test your smart device in the simulator and keep it ready just for the connectivity. So you can do everything in your simulator except the part of the connectivity. Probably you cannot connect to the internet and cannot connect to the cloud. But even if you are able to simulate the circuit in advance before you connect to the network, it's a more than 50% job is done, you can say, in the IoT network. So to do this thing, to make our devices smart, we can use many microcontroller boards. Some commonly used microcontroller boards, especially when we design something in the educational system, what you can say, more than the industry. So for the educational purpose, there are many boards available, right? So if you see this first device here, it's a Raspberry Pi. Okay, it's a kind of computer on the board. You must have surely heard about all these devices. I'll just revise them quickly. Okay, then another device probably you might know mostly uses Arduino, right? With your AVR devices, right? There are AVI devices, there are Atmel devices. So one of this board is Arduino board. Then you must have heard about this ESP8266. Okay, so ESP8266 also has some kind of input pins, output pins, but basically this device is used for, it's a kind of Wi-Fi connector. Okay, so each device here has its own identity. For example, if I had to use Raspberry Pi as a main board for my IoT project, so to make as a smart device, what I'm saying, then Raspberry Pi has got 40 pin IO pin connector, right? So it will act as a computer just like my PC if I connect keyboard and monitor to Raspberry Pi. But along with the PC, it also acts as a microcontroller board by using this 40 pin connector. So that is how it makes it different from PC, right? And because it acts as a computer, it is different than simply microcontroller boards. So I can say Raspberry Pi basically a combination of your hardware pins plus it's a personal computer. So personal computer that can act as a microcontroller indirectly. But in this microcontroller pins, what Raspberry Pi doesn't have is your analog to digital pins. Because most of the sensing things that we have to do, most of the time when we sense environmental parameters, then they are analog in nature. And we need some kind of analog to digital converters so that all these analog values are converted to digital from 0 to 5 volt, just 0 or 5 volt, 1 or 0, because all these microcontroller boards only understand binary language. So we need ADC, that's important component, which Raspberry Pi doesn't have inbuilt. It has all digital pins, but not analog pins. So that is its disadvantage. But it can have its own Wi-Fi chip, onboard chip. It can have Bluetooth chip, and so Ethernet connector is there. RJ45 is available. Your USB connectors are there. So everything is easy with Raspberry Pi. You just put it on and you get connected to the network very easily. Programming it is very easy. Okay, you can just connect LED to this any pin and write just simple program in any language. Even in the Python, you can write the program and control that LED. You can just write in a Python machine learning algorithm and start controlling something about related to IoT. So it is that easy, and it's very magical device. But then again, if I want ADC to connect to this, then I need to use external ADC, or I need to use another board to connect to that, right? So then we have another choice, Arduino device. Now Arduino device is not a PC, okay? It is not a personal computer on PC. It is a simple microcontroller board. Okay, so but it has 6 analog pins and some digital pins. So I can connect my analog temperature sensor or any kind of pressure sensor to all ADCs, and I can just program this microcontroller and it starts working for me. Now, what is the disadvantage of Arduino is it only has a Ethernet connectivity. So I can connect it to my computer. Okay. It only has a USB connector, sorry, not Ethernet, USB connector. So I can connect it to my computer via USB cable, right? And I can also give external power supply 5 volt here, but it doesn't have any means of communication to the network except this USB connectivity. So at the most I can connect it to my PC via USB, and I can use my PC as a gateway as I discussed before, and I can provide the internet to Arduino via my PC. Okay, so or if I don't have a PC, then I can that is becomes wired connectivity, right? So all these things I'll also discuss in the next slide, but just to say here now ESP8266 Wi-Fi chip has a Wi-Fi connectivity available with it, and it just acts as a Wi-Fi dongle, I can say, okay, in short. So if I connect this ESP8266 to Arduino, then I can I'm set to have provided Wi-Fi ability to my Arduino board. Okay, that's how we can mix and match different boards and connect smart IoT things and also teach our students about it, right? So probably next slide will throw more light into this what I discussed now. So let's see how to do IoT with our things. So first thing in IoT, in circuit simulation, we would like to sense and actuate, right? So let's say I have an Arduino board and I have connected different kinds of sensors as the input. Now I will have some pins in the next diagram. Next slide, I will show the pin diagram of Arduino. So I have connected some sensors and there is a relay. So for relay connection, there is a open connection and closed connection. There is some switch kind of thing. All of us have studied relay. So I want to put, let's say, AC on off based on my room AC on off based on the, let's say, this temperature sensor DS18B20. It's a very famous temperature sensor. So now different sensors are different in nature. For example, temperature sensor you get as an analog temperature sensor or digital temperature sensor. If it is a digital temperature sensor, you can directly connect it to the digital pin and accordingly you program this your microcontroller board. Okay. And if it is analog sensor, then you need to provide it your A0 to A5 pin, which is analog pins. So let's say we have done all proper connections. We have done the program to read it. And now I want to send it, okay, for IoT to complete or for someone else to, someone else wants to have this information. Maybe this Arduino is on some field, okay, and wants to communicate. So one of the thing, as I discussed before, I can provide a Wi-Fi connectivity. So I can use the serial communication pins of my Arduino. So my ESP device will be wired with Arduino. So these transmit receive terminals are connected to the transmit receive terminal of ESP8266. So I will have, this is a very small device connected to my Arduino. So there is a physical connection here. And now it looks like my whole device now is able to transmit by using Wi-Fi technology, right? So as I said before, now I want to connect to PC and my PC doesn't have Wi-Fi connectivity. So I can obviously connect another ESP8266 to my PC and make my PC also provide a Wi-Fi connectivity. So now these two ESP devices will communicate with each other and the data, whatever is the sense data that is sensed by my microcontroller board will be now transferred to PC, right? And PC, if it is connected to the internet, then PC is now acting as a gateway and send the data to the cloud. Now I'm set to be connected. My device, smart device is connected to the internet or to the cloud. And whatever is the data that is sensed, we have stored it in the some database. I mean, we have programmed it, this device such a way that it sends the data to computer and computer sends the data to your database. So computer also can directly be connected to the USB wire. But in case this device is far away, maybe not in the same room or in the close distance, it's somewhere else, maybe in another room, then I can have Wi-Fi connectivity or I can have Zigbee connectivity or I can have your Bluetooth connectivity. So the number of ways, accordingly, we need to change the device here. What capability you want to provide for Arduino, that you need that type of device, you connect to the Arduino. Okay, so it's that simple. And then once I connect to the internet, now I'm set to be transmitting my sensing data to the cloud. And this is kind of Internet of Things with my controller board. Okay, instead of this board, as I said, we can also have a Raspberry Pi, except that it doesn't have ADC. Okay, and then Raspberry Pi can have its own internet connectivity or its own Wi-Fi, which can connect to my mobile or to my PC and then to the internet. Okay, or I can have if I have some Wi-Fi provider, some optical cable at home, then my Raspberry Pi Wi-Fi can connect to my hotspot at home, and that way it can be connected to the internet. And then whatever is the sensing data is done here at the input pins, that data can Raspberry Pi can send it to the internet directly, right? Or it can also send data to a mobile. So now all this Wi-Fi connectivity or internet connectivity, wherever you are connected, once you are on the network, then instead of computer, you can also use a mobile as a controlling device. So mobile can receive data from these boards. So let's say if it is a mobile of a farmer and he has some user interface to read different parameters. Okay, and let's say Arduino is on his agriculture field, and then I'm sensing this and he's seeing it on the mobile. There might be some button switches for him to control put on off something or reduce some, if some heating element, cooling element, or he wants to control some motor that is pumping the water in his field. So all such kind of things you can provide on his user interface, and this mobile can get all data from the cloud and send commands, and when this whole thing gets completed, we call it as we have done Internet of Things. Okay, now besides all such boards which basically are not used directly in industry, these are all called prototypes. Okay, so prototypes that facilitate us how to work on IoT. They are more kind of R&D devices. Okay, and if you really want to go for industrial IoT, or really if that farmer wants to make his implement smart agriculture, then then you have these left side devices. They're called as mods, mobile nodes. Okay, so these are all kind of Arduino type of devices, kind of Raspberry type of devices, but they are very miniature, just maybe 1 inch by 1 inch you can say, and they are mobile in nature. They may move. Okay, they have this kind of some kind of wireless antenna, so they have everything on chip. They will have some kind of computing capability, they will have memory, they will have Wi-Fi connectivity to connect to internet, and some kind of processing ability, some kind of algorithm, right? It could be ML algorithm, it could be security algorithm, and all these nodes, which we call it as a mods, like there are some names, Mica, Ysense. All these modes are deployed in the actual field. Okay, when it is a real project, and nothing different with them. Only thing is we will simulate this Arduino with Arduino simulator. There are Raspberry Pi simulators. Likewise, you have these devices have their own operating system called Contiki, and you have some software called Kuja for simulating these devices. Probably you will see it in one of the lectures. So these are also all smart devices, smart IoT devices, and they are very miniature in nature, and they are multiple of them are placed in the application which you want to have a control over, right? So they can say they will also have some sensors on board. Okay, some actuators on board. So really it's a marvelous technology, right? So one of the things I wanted to tell here was, if you don't have any kind of Wi-Fi connecting devices or Bluetooth connecting devices, you can also use GSM for that. Okay, so you get a GSM module compatible with Raspberry Pi, compatible with this Arduino board. So just name the thing for your research R&D work, and you get them. So you can also have a GSM module connected to your Arduino, and which can directly communicate with your phone for some mobile number. Okay, so that is how we do IoT with things. Okay, going next. So basically it can be any kind of device. What you need is different kind of sensors, different kind of actuators, and some communication technology, right? So communication technology, as I said, my Arduino can be connected to any other device, since it doesn't have its own capability, own device for any kind of Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or Zigbee activity. You can have a Zigbee module connected, or you can have a Bluetooth module connected, or you can have Wi-Fi module connected, as ESP8266 is a Wi-Fi module. And these devices, when you connect to Arduino, then they give you, then Arduino is capable to communicate with other devices which are connected to the internet. Right? You will also have a RF modules, RF transmitter and receiver also can be used. Okay, but all they have different specifications, different limitations in terms of communication over, you can say, some distance, right? Fine. We'll continue now with Arduino, since we are going to see only type of simulators that are used for Arduino. Again, I will say there are different simulators available. If it is a Raspberry Pi, then there are simulators available for Raspberry Pi. If it is 8266, there are ESP ke liye there will be some simulators available. So let's come back to the circuit simulation with Arduino. Okay. Nowadays, we have seen that most of our students, their project, they use this Arduino device, right? Especially Uno. Arduino comes in many flavors. You have Uno, you have Nano, you have Duo, you have Mega. So all these have different, sizes. So we can say size in terms of input output capability. So how many digital pins they have, how many analog pins they have, how much memory they have. Okay, what number of timers. As teachers, we all know, right? All these things exist in these devices. So timers for control, or you can say what kind of buses it can connect, what kind of connectivity it can give by using I2C bus, right? Master slave buses. So all these things matter. Based on that, Arduino comes in the different version, and most commonly device used is Uno, where we have, you can see here, 13 digital pins. Out of that, the first 2 pins we are not supposed to use. It's a best practice not to use them as a digital pins unless you are in short of other pins. Okay, you are in shortage of the pins, then you can use them, but you should be keeping them free for serial communication as a transmitter and receiver. Pin 0 is a receiver pin, and pin 1 is transmit pin, and pin 2 to 13 we can use digital pins. Okay, so then we have one onboard LED connected to the 13, which we'll see in our program now. So when we say LED blink program, we'll be blinking this LED on off, which is onboard. Okay, so now quickly go next slide. So I won't discuss this. You have analog inputs and you have some power supplies here. So coming to simulator, so you must have seen now this in pandemic time, most of us could not take practicals for students. Teaching learning so went on with the PPT slides, but when it comes to practicals, even software practicals we could do in Java, Python, or whatever, so that by using some simulators, right? Similarly, hardware projects, if it is the XCC branch, they probably used Proteus kind of software, or PSpice kind of softwares, and probably they took online experiments. Similarly, there is one subject called IoT projects, right, for our Mumbai University syllabus, let's say. So how it is possible for students to do projects if they don't have actual hardware with them, or if they are 3 in a group and one of the person has a hardware and other 2 don't have? So how will they check any project which is by using some kind of microcontroller board like Arduino? So here where simulators play important role, and luckily there are a lot of simulators available online. So I'll be discussing about some simulators now. So what are the advantages of these simulators? So they help us to teach and learn how to code different boards, how to build circuits, Okay, so by using computer. So there may be some simulators, like MATLAB is one of the simulator, which is paid simulator, can provide you some kind of connectivity to internet via cloud. Okay, I mean to cloud. But then most of the simulator do not provide such connectivity. You can only do the circuit, write the code, simulate it, and see that it works. Okay, so you can build the project and you can control it locally, but not via internet. Okay, so simulators it's easy in the simulators to find errors because there is no clutter of wiring. There's no khichdi of wiring, and you can easily find the faults. It's easy to use, easy to understand, and also you can share your designs with your peers, students. You can discuss with them. You can explain different concepts if related to your subjects by using these boards. Okay, board simulators. There are also many disadvantages of these simulators. Few of them that may not be all components available with all simulators. They will have limited components available with them, such as one of them may have LED but not button. Okay, or may have push button but not on off switch kind of thing. Okay, so there could be many limitations with regard to components. If simulator is having everything, many components, let's say sensors, it's very difficult to get simulators having some input sensors. Okay, so some good simulators have the sensors, actuators with them, but many of them are not free. Okay, you have to pay for it. Okay, but if your college institute has purchased, then you can always enjoy those, use them and enjoy those simulators, right? And internet or Wi-Fi connectivity is not provided by many of the simulators. So simulators allow us to design and prepare a hardware circuit without actually using your hardware. You can design code, you can change it number of times, and then using that code and hardware circuit, you can simulate the functionality, okay, that which actual hardware could do. Okay, and without having all those components with us, we can virtually simulate and create that project or that situation. So there are a number of simulators. Few I have mentioned. Some are online simulators. You need to do them with internet connectivity. So most of you must have heard Tinkercad is very commonly used by college students and teachers. So I'll be just talking about it. Then there is also called Circuit.io, Circuit.io. All these softwares need you to register with them with some email ID. Okay. And then recently one software simulator which is open source, Walkv, is getting developed. Okay, and we can also contribute IoT projects to this software. So we will shortly see that. And then if you don't need to have an internet connectivity, there are few simulators. Most of them are paid and some of them are free. So this this Simul spelling mistake is there. This is a okay, Simul something like that. Okay, Simul IDE, something ID is there, Simul IDE. So that Simul IDE is a offline software which doesn't need any internet connectivity and it is free. It's a very good simulator for basic learning. Okay, but it doesn't have any advanced kind of sensors in that, but you can do all other things in this simulator. Then there is Arduino Sim, there is a Emulaire, Vitronics. Okay, so Emulaire, Arduino Sim are free, but again have limitations. But Vitronics comes with many sensors, but it is a something $10–15 it costs. Proteus is very costly. It has most of the components. You can simulate very complex project with Proteus. And it's like just like another how MATLAB ke saath how we do many complex project, we use it for our research and development. Likewise, for all electronic circuitry, Proteus provides a lot of things and it costs in lakhs. We should have it in at the institute level license. Okay. Okay. So as I said, Simul ID is a software which we are going to see, which is free of cost. Okay. So let's say I want to use any kind of simulator which is mentioned above to make a circuit around my microcontroller board, that is Arduino board. Then first thing I should have on with me is Arduino IDE. Now Arduino IDE is a integrated development environment which helps me to write programs for Arduino. The language used is C++ here, and it typically has two functions. One is setup function, another one is loop function. Okay, so in the setup function we usually initialize all the sensors that are connected, all the devices that are connected to the board, any kind of initialization with respect to Arduino board pins and all, making them input output is done under this setup loop, setup function. And inside the loop, the activity that I want to do again and again, right? So all these systems, IoT systems that we are designing are basically come under embedded systems. And as we know, the definition of embedded system is the circuit that will do one function again and again, and that's how it differs from your normal PC, right? Normal computers. So embedded systems act or do one thing again and again, like an example of washing machine. It does only washing cycles again and again, right? So it has these two functions. So this IDE helps you to write the program, then compile them under this sketch section. We will see it. And then you can, if your Arduino board is connected to your laptop or a PC, then you can upload this compiled program to your Arduino board, and it will start acting. The board will start simulating the actual hardware when you want to simulate. That time we use this IDE. Okay. So even if I'm using simulator, it is always good practice. Write your programs in your IDE, compile them here, and then transfer them to simulator. So you avoid 50% of errors in the software here itself, because here compiling becomes very easy. We easily understand what are the errors, if any. Okay. So then we will go to Tinkercad. I will just show you demo one by one. So Tinkercad also we need to log in. Once you log in, then you can create a new circuit. You have certain components available. There also you can code, write your code, and simulate that circuit. Again, there is a limitation on components, but it is a freely available, a very good simulator for students to begin with. And a lot of components are available, at least just enough to do some basic projects. Okay. So this is a example of LED blink with your Tinkercad. So we will see one example in Tinkercad. Then we will see Walkvi simulator, which is again online simulator. Now what happens is it is under development, but they have given some platform available online where you can really play with that platform. You can create your own projects and upload, just like how Java was one big package and people started adding Java programs, you know. Someone develop math package, someone develop some XYZ package, someone develop some communication package, even like a MATLAB, we say toolbox in MATLAB. So all these toolboxes are developed independently and then gathered together. Similarly, Walkvi is a similar concept where people can do their IoT applications and upload for others to use, or for study purpose. And when you develop that application, you learn a lot, like it's a kind of research. So there are many things, help is available for this software. This is the way its dashboard looks, and from here we can also pick up the ready-made program and make changes in that, which I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't know how to begin, right? So we can just begin simply with existing program. So we'll skip this. Then okay, it has one digital temperature sensor. And then they have showed one real-time example, how you can control this temperature sensor and see it on LCD, or on serial communication. Then, as I said, Proteus is very costly. If you have own version or institute, then you can design in that Arduino-based boards. Then Vitronic looks like this. Okay, you have a dashboard of Vitronics, and this board is there. You can change the board from your going to hardware. So once I have a hardware board, then I can have input output pins. I can select here. If I say input output, then I will have its input output pins. If I select memory, then it shows memory. It's very congested actually. And I write my program here. Once I write program and compile it, run it, then if I say blink LED at pin 13, then at pin 13 this particular LED means it will show LED on the pinhole here, and it will start blinking on and off. Okay, so any high and low of the pin voltage is shown by red light here on the pins itself. So this is how Vitronic looks. It is not paid, but you have an evaluation version for maybe few days, 1 month or so, just as a trial version. Okay, so SimulIDE, this is the free software which is offline, a very good software to start with. We will see 1-2 experiment in this. Okay, so I have given some experiments in this. IDE covers many of the things. A lot of experiments I have put here. Few of them, 2-3 of them will perform. Just like very simple ones, blinking of LED. Okay, I given a program here. You all can try, download that simulator, and you can try this on your own. I given almost 8 to 10 programs here. Button connectivity. With button on off, you put LED on off. Serial communication, how to do. Okay, then analog, if you want to read analog voltage. So any sensor, when I'm connecting it to my analog pin, what does it exactly mean? Suppose I have analog sensor connected to the analog pin A0. Actually, that my sensor, any sensor which I use in the real life, its output is always some kind of voltage or current. So in the simulator, do I really need to have actual sensor? I really don't need to have a sensor, because if I know my temperature sensor gives me at 0 degree centigrade, I get the sensor output here as let's say 2 millivolt, and at 30 degree centigrade I get around 10 millivolts, and when it is 100 degree centigrade I get around let's say 50 millivolts. If I know this mapping of the sensor output to the sensor value to the output of the sensor in millivolts, then I can simulate any sensor with the help of your potentiometer. Potentiometer connect terminal 1 to 5 volt, another to ground, and then you can have a divider. You can convert this to millivolts. give that millivolts to your analog signal, and then think that that is a temperature sensor, and make your software. If it is 2 millivolt, then display on the LCD 0 degree centigrade. If it is 10 millivolt, display on the LCD 30 degree centigrade, and something like that. So really we can simulate all the sensors with the help of your potentiometer itself, provided we know their mapping with the millivolts, okay, or some current device. So connectivity of potentiometer is very important experiment. So I won't be taking all these experiment, but I will be making you preparing you or providing you some real good input so that you can be doing it yourself. So this is LCD. Okay, we will see this connectivity. So I give an LCD program also here. Okay, how can you display? Suppose this is my temperature sensor simulated by potentiometer. How can you display that on the LCD? The program will do that. Okay, 7-segment display. How will you use? How will you use relay to operate if I want to connect my AC? So let's say this LED is my AC and this is one main supply coming. So I can put my AC on and off by making relay on and off. Okay, and the relay will be controlled by your microcontroller board, right? So something like that. Actuator, generating square wave, okay, and kind of motor control, stepper motor control. Okay, so many programs are given. Keyboard, how will you connect the keyboard? So please go through all these programs. Okay, and there are many references I use are here. So I will stop with the presentation and I will go for my simulation dummy.
Yes, ma'am. It is.
Okay, so when I log into a Tinkercad, let's say I first get a dashboard with the 3D designs. Okay, so we are not interested in 3D designs. We are interested in the circuit. So click on the second option. Now I have developed some circuits here, but let's go how to create a circuit in the Tinkercad. So click on the create new circuit and you get some set of components, which is basic set of components. From here you can click to all components, you know, and just go through it, study them, what is available. If I click on Arduino, what boards are available. So we will be just using basic because if I connect all, then many components will be visible. So just to be quick, I want basic components only for Arduino board. So this is your dashboard. Okay, so here you have the platform to draw a circuit. So here is your name of the program, which you can change. I can say example 2, let's say, because sometime back I created example 1. So it makes example 2, right? And now I want to create a circuit, let's say blinking of the LED. So I will take a breadboard component and just drag it here. Okay, I can give the name to it, but I don't want to change its name, so let it be as it is. Then I take my Uno board and it shows some kind of USB connectivity, but just don't worry about it. This is just a board and I have a Arduino board here. Okay, so now I want to do a blinking of LED. So I need a kind of LED, so I'll just put it in the search LED. So here is the LED available. I will take this LED here, and actually LED is already there, right, at 13 number. As I said, here is the 13 number LED, but still we'll connect one more LED. So here it is anode, here it is cathode. So I want to connect anode to pin 13. Okay, so I just click on the component end once here and drag it and put it here. And this is my cathode. So from cathode I will just take line and put it to the board. The breadboard has two lines, one black line here and red line. So positive supply, and this is ground. Similar way, opposite end also you have plus supply and ground. Now this plus supply is not connected to this plus supply. So this ground you need to connect, you know, both the ground you need to connect if you want circuit to work. So we will give 5 volt supply to Arduino. So now if I drag directly like this, then the line doesn't come properly. So you have to click. By clicking once creates a node. See, it created a node there. Once again here. So it created a second node and I connect to the board now and then release the button. Okay. So clicking actually joins those nodes. Then I need a ground to be connected. So I'll take a ground pin, drag it. Then I'll click once here, and then I click last time here. So now my Arduino is connected to the board. Now I have to write a code to that. Before that, now my 13 pin fan out capacity, what I call driving capability, will not be so much that LED should not be directly connected. Why? Because if it comes on across the two terminals, it will give me 0.7 volt, right? So this pin will be straightway dropped to 0.7 volt. So it is always safer to use some kind of resistor. So we will see RES is available here. So I'll just take one resistor. To just delete the wire, I'll just click this wire and press delete button on my computer. I drag this resistor here. I connect this wire here, and now I connect resistor terminal to my pin 13. Okay, so I'll just see drag little resistor here. Okay. So by dragging, I make sure that there is no junction formed here. The wires are not shorted. Okay. Now, as I said, whenever I want to do any programming in a simulator, I always prefer to go to my Arduino. So I have one Arduino shortcut here. I'll just show you here. Here. So Arduino shortcut, I just double click. It starts my Arduino. It is some 1.8 version. Once it starts, then I have written many programs. So you also probably have with you this. Okay, it opens some program, right? Some button program. Okay. So I'll minimize this. I will take some program, Blink LED program. This is my Blink LED program. Probably it's not visible. Just see if I can make it bigger. Okay. Okay, I hope it is visible. So this is my LED program, and I'm saying LED pin I am defining in the beginning, so that I can just change at one place next time if I want to change the pin. So LED pin is 13, and in the setup loop I had just made this. This is called variable definition. Okay, so LED pin is just I'm saying integer variable. I can also say constant integer since I'm not going to change it. So this is a variable declaration before setup function. In the setup function, I made this pin as output, and in the loop function, this LED pin I'm making it high for some time and low for some time alternatively, right? So there is a delay of 1000 milliseconds. Means 1 second it will be on and 1 second it will be off. I can change this delay, right? So as I said, in this IDE, I can I can open existing program, recently used programs or new program, right? And in the sketch, I can verify it. So I'll just say verify compile. Once I verify compile, I can upload it. Okay, upload it directly to the USB connected Arduino board, or I can use some another programmer. I can import some libraries by include library command, add some file, new files to my sketch. Okay, and before I compile the program, I need to select the board from the tools. So here I go to my Arduino board. Here many boards I have installed. By default, many get installed. If you want to install ESP8266, it also works on your same Arduino IDE, can be used for number of boards besides Arduino. जैसे कि ESP8266 is there, can be also run from this IDE. So you need to go to board manager and install ESP8266 software. You get it on the net. You can just type ESP8266 for Arduino IDE, download it, go to board managers and install it from there. Okay, so I won't go into detail, but I need to choose either Nano device or Uno. So Uno has been chosen. If I connected actual hardware, then I need to see the port number which is connected. Now see, it's no hardware connected, so port is showing empty. Usually it will show you port numbers. Go to port number, select the port number, and after compiling, upload that to that port number. From Sketch, you upload the program. If your port is proper, it will upload the program to your Arduino. This is how Arduino IDE works in short. We are not interested in IDE. IDE we want to use only to program and see that compiling properly or not. So here it shows me done compiling. Okay, it means my program is correct. So I just copy this program. Okay, and I want to put it in my Tinkercad simulation. So coming back to Tinkercad. So coming back to Tinkercad, we have already designed a circuit. Go to the code. in the code, first it asks, do you want to use block-wise coding? Okay, if then block, for to block. So we want to use text type of coding. So we'll select from here text, continue. Okay, it already has some kind of text, but we are not interested in that. We will paste our code here. Now I have pasted my code here. Okay, now I have to start the simulation. When I start the simulation now, I'm expecting my LED to come on and off here. Okay, but which is not happening because I have not connected this grounds. Okay, so there will be always some of the other thing missing. So we have to keep finding while simulating. So, and we have to see what are the faults in my circuit, whether it is simulating or no. Okay, now if you see carefully here, LED is coming on and off. Okay, so this is a LED blinking program. I can stop the simulation. I can now make changes in the code here itself. My pin 13, I will change it to, let's say, 7. Okay, fine. And I come out of the code, and now I don't want to save it. I just need to delete this line. Okay, I don't know, my PC right left is not working. Okay, fine. It's not getting deleted for me. Delete button say. Okay. So I just need to, yeah, it got deleted. I just needed to connect to pin 7 and then check that whether it is working. Okay, so there was some error. Sorry, it seems your code has some errors. Okay. Some uncommented line. No, there is still some error. I will just copy paste the program again. So since now my program is already ready, I can just take it again from there. LED blinking. I will change this to 7. That is what I want to do, right? I copy paste it and put it here. If there are some typing errors have become, and then I should start it. Okay, so it started. So it is that simple. Now I have 15 minutes more, so I'll quickly go through this. So when I have to go back to my other programs, I just click here on this square. It takes me to the other programs, and whatever programs I have designed, all are here available. So let's say kind of PIR sensor, then it asks you whether you want to tinker this. Okay, it's a bit slow. So I can just, code is already written there, so I can just say start simulating. Okay, so what it has, a PIR sensor, and you know, this LED comes on when somebody is there in the vicinity of that PIR sensor. It basically finds whether anybody there around, right? You know, presence of someone. So you just have to, actually it's very, I have to just zoom it out. Let's see. Control minus shift. Okay, I'll take it little down. So see here, can you see the LED is glowing? So when I click on this bubble, it means someone is present there. Okay, when I come out of it, LED goes off. So that is how we can simulate the PIR sensor. And again, the distance, how far is the object detected? Okay, that also can be simulated. So you can study this more. And as long as you are in the vicinity of this PIR sensor, the LED glows and then it goes off. Similar kind of structure, we can say we'll stop simulating this. One more program I'll show and then we'll go to the next. Okay. We have some kind of motor sensing is there. So there are many important components available. So you have some DC motor kind of thing. You have the driver circuit for that. So here is that demo. So we have some 9-volt battery connected to the DC motor and LM293 driver circuit is used. So your microcontroller board is connected to the driver IC, and then you can see this yellow wheel here. This yellow wheel will start rotating in one direction. Okay, so you can program it to rotate at different speeds, and I don't think it is very visible. See. Just a minute, can I make it little bigger? I'll stop the simulation. Somehow I'm unable to zoom it. Yeah. Shift Control plus. Okay, it's not happening. So it's very simple. This motor runs your program. This is my code to run the motor. And there are when I make both the inputs to this motor low, motor stops. One of them is high, it works in one direction. If I make another terminal high and previous low, it will work in other direction. So that is how Tinkercad becomes very useful to build the small projects. So I hope I made you understand to some extent this Tinkercad. Now we'll go to another simulator, which is again online simulator. Walkve simulator. So I said this is the front end, I mean dashboard of the simulator. Now it works in very different way. These are the programs contributed by many people. At down here you can see, you can say Arduino coding tutorials are available. You also can, there was some link here, you can use tools and add your own projects. Okay, you can add your own projects. So let's see if I click on the blinking tutorial of this, then here is the simulation happens. Now there is no Arduino board present. So by default, they assume the board is there, but you can see here that there is a pin number 13. You can see here LED is connected to pin 13 of the Arduino. Okay, now this is the program which they have, the Sketch program which you want to run. Now in this Sketch, they are used some inbuilt program LED bulletin. Okay, built-in, sorry, LED built-in, and built-in pin is nothing but pin 13. Okay, but they have some another file called lesson.md, which is actually a configuration file. So you need to study this configuration file. This configuration file defines the components that are showed on your simulator. For example, there is a LED red color connected to the pin 13. Okay, so just a minute, I'll just minimize it. So there is a program, and this Sketch program, I just need to simulate the program. How do I go to LED? I still need to minimize. Okay, so now both are visible. So I have to make it very small text so that both the sides are visible. So now if I say run the code, it's a little bigger I'll make. If I say run the code, the LED is running. Now let's say I have to customize this program. See, LED is glowing and going off. I want to make it as pin number 7. So now in this program there is no facility, right? So I take, as I said, always start with your Arduino IDE. I copy my program. I'll just make it change to 7 I had made. I'll make back to 13. Okay, so I put this my program there, and I'll see whether it is running. Sketch me. Okay, I paste it here. Now my program, I'll just run. I'm saying it is LED pin 13. Run the code. It's still running. It's a bit slow. Yeah, see, it started glowing, right? So it's my own program which I have done. It's working. Now I can customize my program, right? I'll stop the code, and now I want to say no. Now connect that LED to pin 7. So instead of 13, I make it 7. I go to this configuration file and I change this label to 7. Okay. I hope I not typed anything wrong there. Let's see whether it comes on. So go to Sketch. I change this file to 7. Now here in the label it is changed to 7, if you see. Okay, 13 number is changed to 7. I run the code. Okay, see now at 7 pin it is connected. So I customize my program. So while teaching to my students now, I need to now change many things. So I should learn how to configure this lesson file. So this is available on the net, some tutorial probably you can see. So I have developed one more tutorial, let's say LCD is there, right? Then I have my code, LCD code written. Come to the sketch, stop this LCD. Okay, so now this LCD program again I took from Arduino, so I had kept it ready. So this is my LCD program which I took from here and copied there, and I defined the pins of LCD. When I do LCD program, it's very important. I need to connect 4 pins of LCD, that is D4, D5, D6 and D7. If you see here, configuration of LCD is defined by this line. So I need to connect RS pin, that is for command, giving command to LCD. So my RS pin is connected to 8. Second pin I need to connect is enable, which is connected to 9. My D1, D2, D3, D4 should be grounded. If not connected, they are considered grounded. D4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this is what configuration I defined here. If you can see LCD pin list. Okay, so I can say RS is probably, again it's not visible to you. Okay. So RS is 8, enable is 9, right? D4 is 10, D5 is 11, and likewise. So I define this. So this configuration, I must need to know how to modify this configuration file. Then my LCD will be, I can modify as per my pins. I can change my pins, right, according to my need. And then I can say run the code, right? So code is already running. I could do one thing. I will write nothing to LCD. I'll just comment out these lines that are writing. I'll make it blank. Okay, LCD.print good morning. So let's say here is that. Just a minute. Okay, then good morning is here. I comment them and I run the code. So LCD is blank, right? It's running, code is running. So I'll stop this running of the code and again I undo whatever I had done. Okay, I will remove those comments from the line and I run the code now. So it will show me hello, good morning, right? So this is the same program which I have given you on the slides, PPT slides. So you can run them. The same program will work on any simulator, okay? As long as you know how to customize things on related to that particular software. Like as an example, lcd.md. So I want to change this configuration file, right? Then only I'm able to have control over that simulator, right? So this is about LCD. Same way the serial monitor is available here. Okay. So in the serial monitor, this is the sketch which types some counter value. Each time it increments the counter. So if I run the code, it will start the counting. So a serial monitor of Arduino is shown here. So anything you want to test related to serial TX RX terminal, right? So we know this is the command serial dot. You just need to import that library and I'll just 1 minute. I'll just stop this. Oh, clear, delete. Is it? Stop the program. So we need some kind of library for this. And then we can just use this keyword serial.begin, serial.end. You can decide at what rate, like 9600. You can change the rate of communication here, rate of bit transfer, right? So this was one example of serial communication. Now let's say I have a code called blinking LED and this button which I added later on. So it is just kind of HTML language. You can see here division may, you can create a division and I'll just make it a little big, create a division and I must know the Walkvi simulator's element name. So element name is a push button and I'm connecting push button to pin 2 that I'm defining here. Okay, color of the button is green. So if I say original program LED, there is no button, right? But then how did I add this button? So I just copied this program, this div tag, I'll take it. I'm just adding the button code to, let's say, this original program of this. So don't worry, even if you modify this original code, their dashboard remains same. So whenever you want again original program, you go back to dashboard and click there. So let's say here there is only LED. So if I put this program code, you can see there is a button added here, right? So which I did some time back and I had kept it ready for you button here, right? So same thing I did it with their original program. One more program I created with button. So I can also add LCD here. So this is how I will use this simulator in this lesson.md file. I will add components that I want. I will define the pin connections. Okay, I can also show Arduino board here. Okay, so only one has to do some tutorial kind of thing sessions. You'll have to practice it. Okay, and then if I put it in the sketch, in this particular sketch button program, I already put pin number 2 button is connected, and then you can just run this program here. Run code. Let's see if I click the button. LED is connected to what terminal? 13. Okay, and my LED pin actually in the program it is connected to 7, right? So either I change my pin here to 13 or I change in my configuration there 7. Okay, somewhere else, somewhere I had to make change, right? So both the places it should be same. So here it is 13 and my label also is 13. So now let's see whether it runs. So run the code. Okay, so see the button state I'm changing off, on, right? Off. I'm clicking double sometimes. Okay, off and on. So likewise, Walkme also can be used. Now in just 5 minutes, I will show the last simulator, that is Simul IDE, which I have given the programs for. I'll close all this, which is offline simulator. So we really don't need internet for that. So you have to download that Simul IDE. I have already downloaded. You get some kind of icon like this. So I won't design a circuit in that, just basic LED blinking I can show you. So first of all, when you open this software, you have all component lists this side. So first is a set of meters that you want to use, okay, for visualization. Some voltage sources are there, some switches are there, some passive component, resistor, LEDs there, some diode, op-amps are there, and there are many components. Even it's not only limited to Arduino. You see Arduino boards, so many boards are there. Besides that, you have other AVR microcontrollers. You have PIC microcontrollers available of different series, plenty of them you can simulate here. So let's say if it is you have logic gates available here, some important ICs available. Okay, and then you can study all these components individually. Whenever I want, let's say Uno, you're already having new circuit. The first icon will open a new circuit. Do you want to save this? No, discard this. So open new. I can open existing circuit from my file. Okay, I can save. This is a save button, save design. So these buttons are for design and save as. Okay, and this is a power on. To simulate, I need to power on circuit. And this side, I want to open a file, new file where I can write a program, or I can open a file from my Arduino IDE, and I can save file. This third button is always save, fourth button is save as. Then I can compile by using this arrow and upload the program to board. So one operation I will show you so that you can understand. So let's say a new connection, new design. So I can say file save as. First time when I say save, then I can just say save as also. So save as, I can give some 1, 2, 3 demo 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I can zoom it also. Okay, so we'll just put this 13 number. You can see a dark dot here. We'll just use our same program, LED blinking. How to code I will show you. So you first open the program. I can directly open it from here, blink LED, which is in my Arduino folder. Okay, now let's see LED connected to pin 13. Okay, then I have compiled once there. I know there are no errors, so I compile here. So it will start compiling here. I should get no error here once again when I compile. Okay, success, compiled. Now this button will say upload. Okay, so it the firmware uploaded with your program. So this is Atmega processor is uploaded with this program. Now this button run. Okay, when I say run, it starts executing that program. It puts on the power on, and I have to put this start button, start simulation. Can you see this LED glowing on and off? Right. I can stop the program here. I can close the file that I don't want, and I can open a new design. Okay, and this design was already saved. Now similar way I can have a LCD communication. I'll just show LCD demo. This will be the last program I will show you, and I'll open LCD file from my Arduino. So I have one demo folder. So let's say LCD demo. I hope the pins are same. If pins are same, what are connected 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, then it should work. So let's say compile the program. Sorry, compile by using arrow. Yes, upload to firmware and run and start simulating. Okay, hello, good morning. So same program works here. So you can do a lot of things, 7 segment display. So you can really use all these tools. This is offline tool you can use for teaching, learning, or your microcontroller based subjects. Okay, so I think I should stop here. I won't talk about Proteus. There's no time. I've taken 5 minutes extra. So thank you for your patient listening. And audible?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So can I stop here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, participants. And once again, just a minute, I want to thank Shan Anchor College and your Department of Information Technology, especially Swati ma'am and the team, for arranging this wonderful sessions, wonderful program FDP for all the participants. Okay, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yes. Just a moment. Ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for delivering very informative and knowledgeable session that highlighted the design, simulation, programming of IoT appliances with Arduino, ma'am. So I just want to take some question and answers. There are certain question and answers that has been
yes.
there.
Yes, sir.
The first question, so that is, what are the best free Arduino simulator?
Yeah, actually, as I said, in the free simulator, whatever 4 according to me were best, I included them in my simulation demos, right? So one was a Tinkercad, is the very easiest one, very commonly used software for students to begin with, especially when you have online teaching learning. Internet is already there, and that I would rate first on online mode. And in offline mode, SimulID, as I said, is another best software. Only thing is, it doesn't have many sensors. It has limitations on that. So probably if you want different applications to be performed, you may have to switch between different simulators. Each one will have its advantage and disadvantages. Okay, so that's all I would like to say on the question.
Okay, there is another question, ma'am. Is there any simulator which we can use to make changes in the protocol as research point of view?
Yeah, you can use Proteus, as I said, and MATLAB. You can use MATLAB is basically used nowadays. They provide many IoT related things. Toolbox is available. It connects your Arduino, Raspberry Pi. It connects to cloud, and people are already using MATLAB for doing IoT research. Okay, even for that matter, maybe even a blockchain nowadays. So there are many toolboxes available for that. So okay, MATLAB can.
Okay. And one last question: the data from the thing or the sensors to the gateway, is it encrypted?
Yes. Whenever you are on the network, when you are leaving your perception layer, it is encrypted. On the network, your data is encrypted. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks a lot for solving our doubts. Again, I thanks on behalf of Saket to you, ma'am, for your valuable time and making this section very successful. So I request you, ma'am, please accept this token of appreciation from our department, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Welcome, ma'am. And we are just again looking forward for such wonderful collaboration in future, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Bye.
you.
Take care. Yeah. Bye.
For participants, please submit the feedback of this day 1 session 2. It has been get posted in the chat box. And our next session will be start hardly within 2-3 minutes, that is at 3:30 p.m. So please stay tuned, participants.